Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to everybody here now. Shalom in the Amud Yomi Shiur. Bava Metzia, Daf Pei Gimel Amud Beis in the bottom of the page in the second wide line. The second wide line in Pei, at the bottom of the page, Pei Gimel Amud Beis. Welcome to everybody here now. Shalom, everybody in Torah anytime, and everybody in a YouTube channel. Subscribe. Today we're going to discuss topics that are rarely discussed in public, but it is important, as the Maharal himself explains, that these Gemaras that we're going to see actually have to be taught and explained. Says the Gemara, we're still in the middle of the story before we start the new topic. The story was about Rabbi Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Shimon, the son of the famous Tana, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, himself was a Tana. And as we saw yesterday, he would be involved in catching thieves. Yeah? It's not so simple if he did it voluntarily or not. According to what we see now, it looks like he, at some point, he held, as we say, that it's the right thing to do to catch thieves, even though the Romans were going to kill them, and we explained why. But still, at some point, he felt bad because he said, and this is where we are right now, although he got some kind of siman mishamayim that his intuition was right, and the people that he gave over to the police were really criminals, and those that he left alone were really innocent, because of something that happened that showed him that he was right. Still, being a tzaddik like that, he wasn't 100%, miyushav das, his mind was not put at rest that he knows, he wasn't rest assured knowing that he really did the right thing. So what did he do? He wanted to know, really, if he's a tzaddik or rasha. How does Hashem view him? How did he do that? Ashkiyu sama deshenta. They gave him sleeping potion, like sleeping pills. Yeah, in other words, some kind of old-time anesthetics. Vailu lebeisa dishisha. They took him to a house of shaish made out of marble, meaning a marble room is a room where he was cold and you can preserve what's there, basically like an operation theater. The koru lekreise. They tore up his stomach. He had a very big stomach. He was a very large person. He had, a big belly. It says, they took out of his stomach, buckets and buckets of tarba, of fat, yeah. And soon we're going to see what the point here is. We have a doctor here who looks very interested, yeah. Maybe that will be your next operation. They took the fat out of his stomach and placed it in the hot, scorching heat of what? Of the sun of Tammuz and Av, that's like July, August. That's very hot in Eretz Yisrael. And it did not smell. It didn't smell bad. Yeah, it didn't putrefy. What does that mean? That a tzaddik, we know, doesn't, his body after the ptira doesn't go bad. There are no worms, and the body stays intact, as we explained yesterday. So that was like a litmus test. Well, he's still alive, but part of his body is, allowed, is given to a situation where it would normally rot, and it doesn't rot and doesn't smell. So that shows that really he's a tzaddik. It shows that Hashem is not angry with him for Kivyachol being a moiser, unlike what Rabbi Shimon Korcha said. Frag the Gemara, so what? Kol tarba nami lo yisariach. Any fat doesn't go bad. It's the flesh that goes bad. The meat, the flesh. It's not the fat that goes bad. So what's the big deal? Well, you didn't pass the test. Answers the Gemara, kol tarba lo yisariach. Regular fat doesn't go bad, it's true. Shurai kisum ki masriach. In the fat, there are like red streaks that are something between fat and flesh. In other words, it's like pieces of, like fleshy pieces inside or around the fat. Maybe the doctor will tell us later. But lamaisa, there is something ishtickle fleshy in the fat, and that would normally go bad in the sun. Yes, staying in the sun of Tammuz Av in the summer. Over here, that those pieces of fat taken out of the stomach of Rabbi Shimon, they did not smell, they did not, excuse my language, stink, because he was really such a tzaddik. And then he woke up, they finished that, medical test, Karya Nafshe, and then he called upon himself, Af Besari Yishkon Levetach. Oh, now he quoted the Pasuk, cited the Pasuk, my flesh too, not just my soul, my flesh too, Yishkon Levetach, can now rest in peace, which means knowing securely, Levetach, I'm secure, I'm sure that I'm doing okay, although I was involved in those questionable deeds of giving over to Goyim, Mesira, Hashem is on my side. You want to, by the way, not today, but in tomorrow's shiur, we're going to see that he was still not sure of himself and still did more stuff regarding this story. What? On Sunday. I'm being corrected that tomorrow there's no shiur. The Af Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi. Let's go now to another protagonist, another Tana with a similar story but shorter. The Af Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi. Also, that's another Tana. Bishmuel Rabbi Yosi Mata Ki Hai Maise Leyode. He too also was asked by the government to be a policeman, to be a detective and catch people, and there was such a story. Now he was forced. While Reb Shimon seems to be more into it, yeah, he was asked. Rashi says the king, the Roman king, the Caesar, whoever, told him that's the job you got to do. Look, people have to go to the army. You have to be a policeman. Nobody's asking you. Pogabe Elio, still Elio Novi, yeah, met him one day. This is Elio Novi already. That's not a Tana. Omerle Elio Novi told him, "Excuse me, sir. Ad mataya tamoiser amashel Elokeinu lahariga. Until when are you giving over Hashem's nation to be killed? Because the Romans would kill people that would steal. Yeah, and therefore, yeah, you steal, you get killed. That's you're being extreme. That's Mesira. How can you do that? Omerle. So now he told him. He responded, "My avid, what can I do? What can I do? Hermana de Malkahu." Yeah, in other words, that's what the king told me to do, and it wasn't voluntary. Like the king told me, otherwise, that chop my head off. In other words, that's what I'm forced to do. Omer Lei, so Leonovi told, and by the way, as opposed to Rabbi Shimon, who had a whole ideology behind it, saying it's a good thing to do because this is how we get the bad weeds of society, and otherwise the Romans would be much worse towards us. He said, you're right, Leonovi. What can I do? I'm forced. Says Leonovi, I have a good advice. I have a piece of advice for you. You know what you can do? Avuch, your father, who Rabbi Yosi, Orak le'asya, he defected. He ran away to Asia, to Asia. Asia is a place, in modern Hebrew, Asia is Asia. He ran away to, I don't know, far away. At Orokle Ludakia, you can now also run away. Get your passport, and beat it. Just run away to Ludakia, which is in Syria, which is up north. Have no choice. They're forcing you to be a moiser. You don't want to die. Okay, I understand that. So, pack your bags and phew. And that's probably what he did by the advice of Elio Novi. Now we're starting the new piece of Gemara. Now we're going to start a piece of Gemara, which there are two ways to learn this Gemara. Either I can go through this Gemara very quickly and blush, or I can actually take this Gemara, like the Maral says, and teach us a lesson that we all have to know as married men. Says the Gemara. Now the two protagonists of the story so far were who? Two people, both policemen, Chas v'shalom, policemen. I really shouldn't say this about Tanoim. They're not policemen. There are Tanoim who were involved one way or another with catching thieves, right? And they knew what they were doing, or they were forced to do what they were doing. Now, these two people were very big. They were both very big. They both, they had big stomachs. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi, makli means when they met each other. When Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, behadi adodi, if they would face each other, yeah, and actually both stomachs would touch each other, yeah, they were mamish, be facing each other up close, like dancing at the Hasidic wedding, mamish dancing together. Have a ayil bakra de toire beinayu. Then underneath them, a bull could actually pass, v'lo have an aga behu, without touching them. In other words, the stomachs were so big, like the area below the stomach was so big that a bull can go, maybe a little one, I don't know, can go underneath. And because that's just a way to show that there were really, big people, there were great people, and there were also big people that had very large stomachs. Okay, so far so good. There's Atkins, there's keto, all kinds of diets, but that's not what bothers the Gemara. They were big, Amar lu matronisa. Came in a Goisha woman. A Goisha woman, matronisa, is an important Roman lady. Yeah, some people say, by the way, matronitas were not so tsanur. They were like high class. What's the nice word for harlots? Okay, I don't know. Yeah, they were high class harlots. Okay, the kids are lomishaneh. You get it, high class. This. So she had her mind. So what does she think when she sees a very fat man with her goyish shiksa mind? She says, "Bnechem einchem shalochem." Your children are not yours. In other words, she doesn't believe that you can actually function with your wife. because you are so fat, you're so big, so you don't reach your wife. I can't get too graphic over here yet. You just don't reach, in other words, and therefore, how come your women have children? Must be your women go to other men. That's, yeah, she thinks the woman of the Moira is Mizana. Get it? Okay, thank you. Omerlo, so they told her, Shilohen Godel Mishalanu. Shilohen Godel Mishalanu means, yeah, you know what, lady? Our women, our wives, have bigger stomachs than us, maybe pregnant, I don't know. They have bigger stomachs, and what? Or another pshat, they have their, soon you'll see what's the musar from here. Their lust, their taiva, their drive is stronger than ours. A woman wants the, how shall I say, intimacy more than the men. So thok the Gemara, kol sheken, yeah. So all the more so. In other words, if she's fatter than you, then of course you can function because both sides don't reach each other. Yeah, you don't really get to do it, right? So kol sheken, it's even worse. Yeah, and if she has stronger taiva, she's not what? She's not being satisfied. Of course, she's going to other men. You guys are not in line, says the matronisa. Ikadamri. So here there are two very, very big muster ideas for us. Two answers they gave her. Ikadamri. Some people said that they told her, Hachi Amrulo. That's what they told her. Ki keish gvurosoi. It's a pasuk in the Torah. Yeah, in Shoftim, ki keish gvurosoi. The bigger the man, the more he has gvura, the more he has might. Which means the bigger the stomach, the bigger the organ. And therefore we manage. Yeah, in other words, we're big all around. We're big in proportion. So we do reach because really everything is big. Yeah. So that's how we manage. Yeah. So we have kids. Now, Ika de Amri, some say, Hachi Amula, that's what they told her. Ava de love, how do you say that? The love pushes in the flesh. In other words, we love each other so much. We have so much love to each other that although technically we're not exactly, athletes, yeah, but lemaisa, we managed to, stick ourselves in and that's the other answer. Interesting. Now we're going to see two Musar ideas from there, from these two answers based on the Maharal. I'm not making things up. The question of the Gemara is, why do they have to answer that? Why does she have to go to their bedroom and have to, if somebody would ask me this question, I would say, excuse me, that's none of your stupid business, right? Why do they have to answer the Goyish woman? These are Tanoim. Why do they Bichlal have to reply to her about their intimacy life? They would have told her, none of your business, lady. The Aksiv, and it says, to support the idea that you don't have to answer such questions, says in Mishlei, I think, it says in Mishlei, Altan Ksil Ki Valtoi. Don't answer the Ksil, the fool, in his foolishness. Somebody asks you a foolish question, you don't have to go down to his level. Not every question has to be answered, yeah? Don't answer the fool with, there's no point to be Mekarev her. She's not Jewish and she's not the biggest tzedekah. Answers the Gemara, Shilolo Tzilaz al B'neihem. Lolo Tzilaz al B'neihem. Not to be Moitzilaz, not to actually, because what would she say? If they don't give her a good answer, she would say that their kids are Mamzerim, right? So that was a concern. In other words, Chazal in many, many places, lahalocha, even when there's a question of Eishes Ish, many times Chazal are mekel, sometimes, I'm not going to details, to make sure that people's children don't get labeled wrong as Mamzerim. And that was a concern. She was a choshev woman. She would start talking. If they don't give her a clear answer about how they do function in the bedroom, I'm sorry to talk like that, is what she would say they're Mamzerim. So they had to answer back. But let me now stop for a second before we get to a Gemara, which is even more. Yeah, what are those two things that I'm basing myself on the Maharal? Yeah, what are the two things that Maharal is 4 pages here, 4 big pages, long and hard stuff, a lot of stuff here. The Maharal says you don't have to shy away from this Gemara. This Gemara is very important, and this whole issue is kedusha. It's very, very holy matter, and the male organ, which we're going to discuss even more, is a very, very holy thing. It's a yesoid. It's to do with the fact that's the basis of the whole human being. Yeah, of how you have children and all that. It's a very holy thing. Says the Maharal, what's the unholy thing that we all giggle and shy and blush? And we should maybe. Why? It's not the actual act, which is a very Kaddish thing. The point is that our lust, if we have selfish lust, which we naturally do, men, we have selfish lust, we want to get what we want in that action, that is a very big busha. And that's what exactly happened to Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve. Why were they so ashamed after they ate from Eitz Hadas? Why? Because at that point, they got Yetzer Hara. So beforehand, they had relations and it was very clean. Had relations were like drinking tea, was really nothing, even holier. Once he ate from Eitz Hadas, Yetzer Hara came in. Once he Yetzer Hara, is involved in the Maisa, that's where you have to put on your underwear, excuse me, and you have to get dressed and you have to be tsanua because your own lust is in the story, which naturally it is. What were they telling her? Now listen to the beautiful pshat. It's not, it's me based on the Maharal. There are two things that answer the woman with a, excuse my language, dirty mind. They told her, listen, lady, we're not the level with you. What are we? Either we have what? We have keish gvura soy, yeah? What's gvura? Ezu gibor kovish yitzroi, yeah? By us, Yetzer Har is not what drives us. We're driven by gvura, by Yetzer Toiv, by kovish the Yetzer, and we don't go anywhere else or think anywhere else, neither us nor our women. Elamai, all what we do is only in order to give our wives pleasure, to make our wives happy. And that's the job of a man, to make his wife happy in all areas of marriage. That's a very, very important thing. The second answer, Ahava dochekes es boso. What's boso? Gashmias. Boso is physicality. Our love to our wives and the commitment and knowing that as married men, and you can say a lot about that, a married man has to make sure his wife is satisfied. And it's an extremely important mitzvah midoraisa called oina. And that mitzvah of oina, you have to make sure your wife is happy, completely happy. That is so holy and so good and so selfless that it's doichek es abasar. It overcomes the gashmias. See how nice? That's the point. You think just, you think like somebody Western world. It's all about physicality and fun and da-da-da and all this culture that we're on. No. By us, it's kedusha, A. And secondly, the whole idea is to be selfless and give our wives the pleasure that they deserve. And that's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah d'oraisa. Pashut like that. Now, having said that, we're going to understand the next piece of Gemara. Rabbi Yochanan, the organ, the male organ of Rabbi Yochanan was kechamas b'stei shakabin, was as big as a chamais, like a jug of 9 kabim. It's a big jug. Yeah, it was like a long thing of 9 kabim. It's very big. Amar Rav Pope comes Rav Pope and says, Eved Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Pope now talks about Rabbi Yochanan. Each one talks about the previous generation. Kechames b'schameshes kabin. Yeridas adoros. The less the door, the less the aver. His male organ was like 5 kabin. Rav Pope some say 3 kabin. Rav Pope also had a big organ, but it was as big as the kud alpanoi, was like a basket, like a basket from the place called Arpania. Who cares about the size of the organ? What are we talking about over here? The answer is a few answers. First of all, the Arishonim will say, some Rishonim say, like the Ritva and others, they say it's not the male organ, it's talking about their arms or the legs. Okay, just saying how big they were in other parts of the body. Maral doesn't like that. The Maral says, no, we're talking about the real deal. Marshal says that the head big aver means what? That big Yetzer Hara. You think just because there were Tanoim or Moroim, there were angels, they were what? No, they had Yetzer Hara. Fakert, what does it say at the end of Sukkah? Kol hagodol mechaber, it's a godol mimenu. And they're telling us, my friend is such a big aver, it's tremendous Yetzer Hara, and he knows how to control it. Why Tisha Kabin? Why is the biggest one Tisha Kabin? What's Tisha Kabin? Tisha Kabin shall this and Tisha Kabin shall that, right? Asor Kabin shall Sicha went down to the world and 9 the women took. Asar Kabim Shel Znus came to the world, and 9 of them took the Arabs. The Arabs have 90% of the Znus in the world. They don't look like that. Yeah, but Lamaisa, it's like that. In other words, the point is that really he had all the Yitzhar in the world was in one Aver of a Tana, and yet he was a Tana, he wasn't a Zoina. Unbelievable. And the other what? Excuse me? Tisha Kabin is like a Tvilas Ezra. Very good, very, very nice, very nice. Another point, you see that the size of an aver, the Gemara calls the aver what? Shalom Bayis Macher. Mashkin Shalom Bayis. The Gemara in Sukkah Daf Chav Daled Amud Beis says that the person's aver is what makes his wife happy. And it says it's also in Psochim Kuf Yud Gimel. So you see, they made their wives happy. In other words, the mitzvah of a man is to make his wife happy and satisfied. There's a lot of articles about it, so from big people. And that's the idea. That's the idea. The idea is the whole thing is kedusha. The whole idea is selfless. And the idea is when you keep your wife, your partner happy, that is the goal of the story. Besides that, you have kedusha, v'tahara, and heilig and machshavas. That's the top of that. But the main thing is a man has to know mitzvah d'oraisa to keep her satisfied. That's ad kan. I think there was more than enough. Yeah. Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Comes Rabbi Yochanan and talks again about a different aspect of that. Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Ano ishtayri mishapire Yerushalayim. I am the only one who is left over. I'm from the Shiraim. I'm from the descendants from those beautiful people of Yerushalayim, which means Rabbi Yochanan was a physically beautiful person. He was a very, very handsome man. And in Yerushalayim, Ira Kodesh, a lot of people were handsome. And Rabbi Yochanan, who lived by the time of the Churban Abayis, of the destruction, he says, I'm from those Shiraim, from the, so to speak, leftovers of the people, the beautiful men of Yerushalayim. Now, his sister was also very beautiful, but he speaks about the men. Out of all men, he is like, Mr. World, number one. Whoever wants to realize the beauty of Rabbi Yochanan, says Rashi, the main thing about Rabbi Yochanan, the main point of beauty was his face was shining. Also, the Gemara in Brachas, Daf Amud Beis, speaks about the fact once, he uncovered his arm and the dark room was lit, was full of light. Like he had like special light, it's spiritual and physical beauty, like the color and the shining of his face was very special. If you want to get an idea, and you don't see Rabbi Yochanan, where did we see Rabbi Yochanan lately? Yeah, you want to get an idea of how beautiful Rabbi Yochanan was, how can you get the same effect? Neiti Casa de Caspa, get a silver goblet, a becher, a gavia, mibei salki, from when it comes out of the fire. Yeah, in other words, when it's really freshly minted, freshly crafted, when it's really nice and shiny and new, just got out of the hot sorfim. Fill it with the grains of the pomegranate, of really nice, good red pomegranate. And put a crown of red roses around its rim. Yeah. And put that goblet between the sun and the shade. Yeah, like a very specific place. Yeah, that kind of shine, of glimmer, of splendor you're going to see there. That would give you an idea of the beauty of Rabbi Yochanan. Silver, red, roses, all the beautiful colors in the right, it's better than Photoshop, yeah? And that gives you an idea of the beauty of Rabbi Yochanan. I'm sure there's a lot of depth here about why Dafka Rimoinim, Dafka Vrodim, I don't know. I didn't see anything in the Meforshim, but there's a lot of what? Not that I saw. No. I'm sure there is more depth here. I didn't see about this Nikuda. Is that so? In other words, you're telling your Rabbi Yochanan was so beautiful? Well, there's another statement that says otherwise. There's a list of beautiful men, and he's out of that list. Yeah, he's not on the list of the top 10 most handsome men. Is that so? It says in the Gemara, Shufre de Rav Kahana, the beauty of Rav Kahana, me'ein shufre de Rabbi Abo. Rav Kahana's beauty is only, me'ein, is only an idea, like a shadow of the beauty of Rabbi Abohu, which was before him. Yeah, they both lived in Eretz Yisrael, by the way. Shufra de Rabbi Abohu, me'ein shufra de Yaakov Avinu. Oh, shufra de Rabbi Abohu is similar, but much less, trace of the beauty of Yaakov Avinu. Shufra de Yaakov Avinu, me'ein shufra de Adam HaRishon. And the beauty of Yaakov Avinu, yeah, is a resemblance of the beauty of Adam HaRishon. Adam HaRishon was most beautiful. He was handcrafted by Hashem, yeah, that's so, okay. So we have 4 beautiful men in history, each one a different generation. Hey, we're missing Rabbi Yochanan. Frag the Gemara, viril Rabbi Yochanan, lo kachoshiv lei. Rabbi Yochanan is not in the list. How come? He's so beautiful. How come he's out of the list of the 4 most beautiful? And says the Gemara, shiny Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is different. Why? He didn't make it into the list because of a small glitch in the system. There's one thing that he was missing to be number 1, in the beauty thing. The hadras ponim lahavilei. He did not have the beauty of the face, which means a beard. He didn't have a beard. I don't know why. No, I don't think he shaved it. Maybe naturally didn't have a beard. I didn't have a beard. So not having a beard, again, that's the opposite from the Western world of shtuyot. Yeah, not having a beard that's actually in the contest that takes you out of being number 1. You're not one of the top 4 if you don't have a beard. Hadras ponim, a beard for men, is something which is mehaderet hapanim, something that beautifies your face. It's something that midas chesed, yud gimel midas shalachmim are all in the beard. Now the Gemara tells us a story to do with Rabbi Yochanan's beauty. Actually, 2 stories. Rabbi Yochanan have azil v'yosi v'sharit vila. Rabbi Yochanan would sit by the door of the mikveh, the women's mikveh, in case you were wondering. Yeah. Now he did not look at the women. Rabbi Yochanan also, in spite of being beautiful, because being beautiful, his eyelids were very drooped, like would cover his eyes. So naturally, His eyebrows, you think so? Okay, if you say so, I'm not arguing. His eyebrows, I hear Gvine, I think it says Gvine, you're right. Yeah, because his eyebrows were like that, so he would not see the women, but he would sit by the door of the exit of the mikveh. Yeah, when women would go out of the mikveh, the first thing they would see would be him. Yeah, it would be him sitting there. He would be sitting there, all in his heilig and machshavas. He doesn't see them, but they see him. What I'm saying is based on Rishonim, but I didn't invent it. Yeah, he didn't look at them, obviously, but they looked at him as they come out. What's the idea? Why? Omar, he said, why am I doing this? He salka b'nos Yisrael mitvilas mitzvah. When b'nos Yisrael come out of the mikveh of tvilas mitzvah, about to reunite with their husbands, and as we said before, it's a very holy thing. Mitvilas mitzvah. The only ones that decided that it's a dirty thing are the Christians because they are really dirty, right? But us, it's really holy. Mitvilas mitzvah. Itvilas mitzvah, they come up, and I want them to have the right idea in mind. Lif geubi. I want them to meet me first, not meet me, but see me first. Yeah. I want them, give them the schus that they should have children as beautiful as me. If the first image the woman sees out of the mikveh is very affects her, that's why women, if a woman goes and sees a dog or a cat, is the first thing. It's not a good simon. Some go back to the tefillah, some don't. I'm not going to that, but yeah. That's what they say. The balanit, the mikveh attendant, is the first one that has to see her when she comes out of the water. So she sees, a good from woman is, the first thing. The first thing she shouldn't see a dog or a cat, probably not your smartphone either. See, the first thing you see should be something holy. So Rabbi Yochanan would be the first image that they saw, and this way they go with their husbands. Hopefully they get pregnant, and the children that they should have should be as beautiful as me. And Gmiri Oraisa Kavasi. Let's not forget the Iker. And also told me the Chachamim like me. It's not Gaiva. Rabbi Yochanan had healthy self-esteem. He knew that he's, very handsome, and above all, a very big Talmud Chacham. He wants to give them the zchus that they should have children like him, to give zchus to Bnei Yisrael, to Klal Yisrael. Very good. Amar le Rabbanon asked Rabbi Yochanan, Lo mistapi ma me'ena bisha, are you scared? Aren't you scared of Ein Hara? All the women are going to say, wow, what a guy. Yeah. So what? This Ein Hara. Yeah, you're causing yourself Ein Hara, and that's a very big concern. Why aren't you concerned about that? Omer lehu, he told them, no, I'm not concerned about that. No, Mizar de Yosef Katina. I'm a descendant of Yosef Atzadik. The Loishante be'ena bisha. Yosef Atzadik and all his children, they're not controlled by, they're not affected by Ein Hara. Yosef and his children, there's no Ein Hara. We see it many times. They're a very, very big tribe, Menashe and Ephraim. And still, they're not scared of having many people and being out there. Yosef was a melech and all that. They're not scared of Ein Hara. Soon you're going to see why they're not affected by Ein Hara. The Chtiv, it says in the Torah, the famous pasuk, Ben Poras Yosef, Ben Poras Yosef, Ben Poras Yosef, Ben Poras Alei Ain. Yosef is Alei Ain. What does Alei Ain mean? Rabbi Abou, Atikri Alei Ain Ela Olei Ain. Alei Ain means above the eye. In other words, Yosef Atzadik and his descendants are above Ein Hara. Why is he above Ein Hara? So it says somewhere else in the Gemara that because he guarded his eyes. He guarded his eyes. Eshes Potiphar drove him absolutely mad, right? Every second, every minute, SMSs, WhatsApps, pictures, all the time, come and sin with me. And he didn't, right? And he, mamish was, he didn't relate to that at all. He didn't even look at her. And therefore, at the last moment, maybe yes, but for a very long time, he controlled his eyes very, very much. And therefore, because he controlled the eye, therefore the Ein Hara does not control him. That's the idea. One second. Rabbi Yosef Bar Chanina Omar. Rabbi Yosef Bar Chanina brings you another source. There's another source that tells you that Yosef and his family are not affected by Ein Hara. It says, the bracha that Yaakov Avinu gave his grandchildren, the children of Yosef, Menashe and Ephraim, was the Yidgul Arav, they should become like fish. What's a big mal of being like fish? It's very fishy. Ma dogim shebayam, first wide line, but not widest. Ma dogim shebayam, ma mechasim oisom. The fish in the water, unless you do scuba diving, you're a normal guy, you don't live in the sea. Most of us, you walk around, even in natural places, you see animals, you see people, but fish in the sea, the water covers them. Yeah, the water covers the fish that's in the sea. The ein hain shaletes bohen. You naturally don't see the fish. You have to go down to Eilat, Pseder, Shkoich. Normally, the ayin, regular, within your field of vision, you don't normally see fish. they're like covered. They're tsanua. They're undercover, under your radar, outside your radar. Avzara shel Yosef enan sheletis boen. So too, Yosef's children like fish. That's very nice. On one end, they multiply like fish, and Menashe and Ephraim eventually were very big tribes, were very large in numbers. And on the other hand, they're like shu shu shu. They're like nobody controlled them with their ein hara. Again, because of the zchus of Yosef Atzadik, who controlled his eyes. You should know a person who's shomer einayim, a person who guards his eyes, a person who doesn't look at bad things. Lot tzanua is not supposed to. First of all, it's an issa doraisa to look on things that are lot tzanua. Look at the woman as lot tzanua. It's like eating chazir. The same thing. If you do it on purpose, same thing. You can eat chazir. If you look at woman on purpose, lot tzanua, you can go eat pig. Is the same thing. Secondly, a person who's shomer einayim, who guards his eyes, then he gets a lot of schusim, parnos, shefa, brios, atzlocho. He's Hashem's friend if he manages to guard his eyes. And above all, he doesn't have ein hara controlling him. He can live in a huge house, 5 cars, 2 swimming pools. Nobody would do any ein hara to him if he's shomer einayim. Questions and comments? Yeah, yeah. Very good question, which I'm going to relate to, since today is the one day to discuss these topics. Good question asked for you. What were the women supposed to think of when they're having relations with the husbands? Are they supposed to think of Rabbi Yochanan or about their husbands? So, first of all, it does say that obviously, when it comes to desire, to lust, the person should chalila not think about another woman while he's with his wife. That's halacha, right? That's why you shouldn't even have noise in the house while you do the ma'aseh, the mitzvah, because you met. Maybe you hear the voices of other people, maybe neighbors, friends, brother-in-law, something. Don't have that noise in the house while you're in the mitzvah because you may get the wrong idea. On the other hand, it says that the couple, if they are planning on children, if they're in age and stage of having children, then they should think of tzaddikim not in a chalila desirable way, in a holy way. In other words, have in mind tzaddikim as to sanctify the ma'aseh and get holy children. That's pshat. She thinks of her husband and he thinks of his wife. Obviously, as we said, it has to be spiritual love expressed with physicality, through physicality, not stam chas v'sholom and getting him a pleasure stam. And secondly, the holy machshava, the holy idea should be, I want my children to be like tzaddikim, such as Rabbi Yochanan, or whichever tzaddik you have in mind. Yes, Rabbi, yeah. Before we continue to the next story, I'm reminded by our very learned colleagues over here, the halacha, the Yeduadik halacha in the Mishnah, in Menachos, it says that a person, when it comes to Beis HaMikdash, a person is only allowed to eat korbanos, where? In Yerushalayim, within the walls of Yerushalayim. Right? Once you are, Mea Sharim or Horonof, you can't eat a korban, even when Mashiach comes, unless the gvul will be extended. That's a different story. When it comes to Shiloi, Mikdash Shiloi was before Beis HaMikdash, that was when Shmuel was there, it was before Nov and Givon, it was 3 Mikdashim before Beis HaMikdash. There, the halacha is Mikdash Shiloi, you can eat the holy food, the korbanos, as long as you can see the Mishkan, within the field of vision of the Mishkan. That's where you can see. That's a very strange thing, When you have bomois, you can eat it wherever you want. In Yerushalayim, all within the walls. The Shiloi, the standard is the status of where you can eat korbanos is wherever you can see the Mishkan, there you can eat. So the Lamaisa, why? Says, so it says why? It says, and you guys are reminding me, because Yosef Atzadik Shiloi was in his portion of the land, okay? Because Yosef was an eye guy, Yosef was a person who controlled his eyes and his descendants, v'chule. That's the thing. Mimela, as long as you can see Shiloi, you're still within the kedusha, the holiness of Shiloh. I just want to share something personal about this point of this year, and then we were once in Shiloh, like 2 years ago. They have a place where there's highly assumed was the Mikdash Shiloh, and they built a very nice visitor center. And the tour guide, she was a Talmud Chacham, I must say. She was a very frum woman, and she gave us a lot of inside information. And she said archaeologists found a lot of broken pieces of clay, shards of clay under the ground, pumped within the field of vision of that place. Why? Because it says when you eat the holy food, it becomes what? Noisor. It says in the Torah to break it. So you see that they broke the kelim and then went home. So you see mamash a proof that was the custom and this is the place. And we live the Torah nowadays. Unbelievable. Yeah. Weiter. Okay, thank you for the reminder. Very good. Weiter. Baruch Hashem. Now comes the famous and, at the end of the day, a very tragic story of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. We see Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish appearing many, many times in the Gemara, and let's see, have a peek into the personal lives of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Yomi Echad, one day, Rabbi Yochanan was swimming in the Yarden, in the Jordan River. Rabbi Yochanan, was swimming. Reish Lakish saw him. The Shavar Liyarden Abasrei, he jumped into the river after him. In other words, why did he jump into the river? To be together with Rabbi Yochanan, because either he was a bandit, so maybe he wanted to, I don't know, catch him, and I don't know, I don't think he had money on him, or Mechavrusa just called me this morning by phone and told me that he saw one of them before him. He thought he was a woman, which explains he didn't have a beard, very good looking without a beard. You only saw his face, but not so, with the water. You can't really see the gender so much, and therefore he jumped because he thought, oh, here's a nice girl, So what do you mean? Yeah. Omar Lay, he didn't swim separate, because he was a bandit, he wasn't from Omar Lay. So now Rabbi Yochanan, instead of saying, what did Rabbi Yochanan, how did he respond? He said, Chelech la'araisa, your strength, you jump, oh, what a man, you jump into the water so strongly, Chelech la'araisa, your strength can be used for Torah, your strength, you can be utilized for Torah, Mekaravim, Omar Lay, Shufrach lenashi, your beauty can go for women. What a disappointment, you're not a woman. I thought you're a woman, you're so beautiful, that kind of beauty is more suitable for women. You're telling me where my power can go? You, Rabbi, I'm telling you, your beauty can be befitting for women. Reish Lakish responds to Rabbi Yochanan and says, your beauty is suitable for women. It's more matim. I thought you were a girl, what a disappointment. Or you can say, Shufrach lenashi, I don't know if anybody says that pshat, but maybe Shufrach lenashi means your beauty can be used for you to chase women. In other words, you're so beautiful, you can get women. You're telling me I'll be more frum, I'm telling you to be less frum. It's like discussion. Omerle comes Rabbi Yochanan with the response and told him, if you choser b'tshuva, I'll give him a sister that's even more beautiful than me. You thought I'm a woman and you're disappointed? No disappointment. Become, a good guy. And then I'll give you my sister that's nicer than me, that's more beautiful than me. Now, of course, it's l'chor, not l'shem shamayim. We know, mitoch shelo lishma, ba lishma. Start learning in yeshiva. Eventually, you'll see the beauty of it. Kabil alei, he accepted upon himself to, b'choizer b'tshuva. I want to stop at this point and explain that there's a big machlokes between Rashi and Tosfos. Was he a tinuk shenishba, or was he OTD? Of the derech, to those who don't know. In other words, was Rabbi Yochanan born, non-knowledgeable? He was born into the world of crime, crime family. He was a bandit right from the start, and therefore it's not so clear why I'm saying to be choizer. Choizer means you were once frum and you go back there, So Tosfos doesn't like Rashi's pshat that Reish Lakish, was always ignorant. Tosfos proves from all kinds of places that Rabbi Yochanan was a Talmid Chacham. And then he went off the derech, became a bandit. That's Tosfos says. Tosfos. Reish Lakish, I'm sorry. What? Excuse me. Sorry. Erase. Thank you. Reish Lakish was Talmid Chacham. Off the derech, became a bandit. He had big koyach. He didn't know how to use it. And then Rabbi Yochanan is again bringing him back to his old glory and more. So then he accepted upon himself. They were in the river there. The bathing suits. And his mekabel upon himself tshuva. Mekabel, he accepted upon himself the yoke of Torah mitzvahs. Baila mihadar. He wanted now to use his power and jump out of the river. La tuyamani, to bring his clothes, to get dressed. Veloy matzi hoda. Oh, he couldn't do that. He lost his power. Like Superman without the thing. Lahavdil. That power out. He doesn't have the power anymore, the strength, that ability to jump back. Why? Because you see from here, once a person accepts upon himself Torah, then we already have the concept of Torah mateshes koach shel adam. If a person's strength goes for Torah, his physical strength is usually weaker. His energy is directed towards Torah, not towards building muscles in the gym. Because Reish Lakish was already in the mood and mode and mindset of being completely Talmid Chacham, even though he wasn't yet, because even according to Tosfos, he forgot everything or most of it. and therefore accepting a different mindset means your strength is not the same. So then what happened next? Well, at that point, the story goes very nice and very, reads like an art scroll novel. Akre, he taught him Chumash. He didn't know Chumash even. Better with Rashi, maybe. Akre, the Atne, he taught him Mishnayos. The Shavigar Rabba. Rabbi Yochanan really groomed him, made him into a great person. Very nice. So far, so good. And we know Rabbi Yochanan and Lakish, the two brothers-in-law, they argue throughout Shas, and Rabbi Lakish was an Amoira until one day, then one day, Yomi Echad, one day, there was an argument in the Bes Medrash. What was the argument about? It's a Mishnah in Kalim, not exactly quoted the way it's in Kalim. The Mishnah discusses different weapons, different arms. Hand grenade, gun, joking, yeah? A scythe, that's a sword. A sakin, a knife. A pigeon is the smaller one, a dagger. A roimach, lance. Magal yad is a small sickle. Magal kotzir, a bigger sickle, yeah? Memosai mekablin tuma. The question is, all these sharp items, all these sharp objects, yeah, the ones you're not allowed to take with you on flight, yeah, on board, yeah, okay. So these sharp objects, at what point are they halachically considered a finished, done, complete utensil? Who cares? So they are susceptible to receive tuma, right? We all know the raw material, raw metal, or semi-raw metal, even if it touches a dead person, rodent, anything, lo mishaneh. It's not yet a kli, it doesn't receive tuma, not susceptible. Once it's called a kli, a complete finished kli, then if tuma comes, the tuma affects it, becomes tome. All the ramifications. When is it really called? When is it called a finish, a done deal? Mishas gmar melachtan. Once the melacha, once the process of manufacturing it is done. Yeah, says the Gemara. Thank you. Well, when is that? Yeah, there are different points in the process which you could call the end of process of having a finished, done, beautifully crafted sword. When is that? That was Machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan Omar Mishitzar from Bekivshan. Once they were in the kiln, yeah, in the kiln with an N at the end, yeah, the kiln, the furnace, in the hot fire, it's out of the fire, it's done. That's it, it's done. Good. Now that's what Rabbi Yochanan says. Reish Lakish Omar Mishitzach Tzichan b'mayim. No, Reish Lakish says no. You have to, after it's very hot, you have to put it in cold water. And in the cold water also makes it, it finishes it off. And also, according to what? Tempering. But there's another point here. It also gives it more of a shimmer. It gives it more, yeah, that's what the Meforshim say. Makes it, it's important to know. It makes it a bit more, gives it a glimmer. Okay? So, B'kitzur, Reish Lakish holds, you need one more step, one more stage in the process to make it to, so it should be considered as a really done kli, only then it accepts tuma. Omer lei, comes Rabbi Yochanan said, and this is such a tragic story, it teaches us how we have to be so careful not to hurt our friends. Comes Rabbi Yochanan with an absolute innocent, innocuous statement, and he said, "Listo b'listius yoda." You have your past. You were a listim. You are a highwayman. You're a bandit. So you know about these things. In other words, he sort of gave him a compliment. Well, in this area, you know better, right? Yeah, like I will tell a doctor, you know better about medicine than I do. And that's a compliment, right? So Rabbi Yochanan said, oh, you have your past. Bal tshuva. From your dark past, you have knowledge about these kelim. So I guess you're right. Oh, what? It's also to remind Bal tshuva. No, very good. Also to remind Bal tshuva of his past deeds. That when is that? There's a question here about tshuva. Could be here. It was bad because he was originally from. Oh, that is when you tell him, you're about tshuva in a bad way. Here meant a compliment. Yeah, if somebody has a Baal tshuva was better, he didn't mean it in a bad way. Yeah, that all hell broke loose, whatever. Omer le comes Rabbi Reish Lakish, and he makes a statement that can be understood in like three different ways. Comes Reish Lakish and says the following: Umay honestly, what did you help me at all? You didn't even help me. Hossam Rebbe Korali, Hocha Rebbe Karoli. Over there, they called me Rebbe. When I was a bandit, I was the head of the bandits. I was the ringleader. I was called the master, the Choshuv. Here too, they called me Rebbe. In other words, yeah, it's not worth it for me. There I was important. Here I'm important. I might as well go back to be a bandit. Very, very, very hard to understand thing. Is that an Moira talks? He's so not l'shem shamayim. All your Torah and mitzvahs are just for the honor, for the glory. So you don't mind, giving it all up and becoming a bandit and say, I was also choshev in the world of crime. That's really, really hard to understand. So there's a whole business here with Rashi and Tosfos. Let's see first what Rabbi Yochanan replied, and then we'll explain Reish Lakish again. Omer late says Rabbi Yochanan to Reish Lakish, what do you mean? He says what I would say, what you would say. Of course, Ahanilach. Of course, I helped you. It's all about glory. I brought you close under the wings of the Shechina. You're an Amoyer, not a bandit. Who cares about Rabbi? Is that what it's all about? So Rabbi Yochanan was extremely upset with Reish Lakish that in his mind said something so not l'shem shamayim, yeah, so full of self-interest. What pshat? The Maharsha combines what Tosfos says with Rashi. We have a question here. What with Rabbi versus Rabbi? Says Rabbi Yochanan, according to the Maharsha, according to Tosfos, Rabbi Yochanan already knew that Gemara from when he was from the previous time, the previous incarnation, the previous life, yeah. Reish Lakish, why do you get sorry, keeping you on your toes? Reish Lakish says to him, no, I'm sorry. You're telling me, oh, I know it because it's from a profession. No, I know it from Hossam Korali Rebbe. Honestly, you think you're being nice to me when you tell me we're having a Lomdish argument, people who sit and learn, they argue a lot in the Lomdis, in the logic, yeah? And if somebody tells the other one, I agree with you, because it's a technical reason why you're right, yeah? It's a little bit, of a slight. Why? He says, no, I don't know it because of it's a technical thing. I know it from a svara from last time I was a Rebbe. Hossam Korali Rebbe. When I was young and nice, I was already then a Talmud Chacham. Now I know it again. I don't know it from my dark past, which is between the two lives. I know it from an early stage of life when I was a Talmud Chacham again. That was his taina. So he was not chas v'shalom saying, why is it worth for me to be frum? He was just saying, honestly, you're not helping me by babying me to say, oh, you know it from a professional side. No, I know it because I'm a lamdan. I'm a lamdan just like you. And you know what? When I was young, I already knew that. So although there's an argument, chas v'shalom, Reish Lakish didn't mean to say, it's not worth it for me to be frum. But Rabbi Yochanan was upset because Rabbi Yochanan thought that it is what he's saying. Mamish misunderstanding. Rabbi Yochanan thought that Reish Lakish is saying, like we originally thought, that he's saying, it's not worth for me to be frum. I'm not getting more covered. I got covered when I was irreligious, when I was a bandit. That was a misunderstanding according to the Maharsha. Unbelievable. What happens next is very, very tragic. Cholosh daite Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, Cholosh daite, he fell into depression. He was depressed and very upset with his prodigy, with, the one that he built up. Now he's talking like half a koifer. Rabbi Yochanan was down, and Rabbi Yochanan was also angry with Reish Lakish. Cholosh Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish became sick physically and was about to die. Why? Because of the akpod of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, big Talmid Chacham, Gadol Ador, had a akpod on him. He took an exception and was upset with him, and that affected Reish Lakish's health. Mishamayim. Asai Achte, the sister of who? Of Rabbi Yochanan, who's married to Reish Lakish. That's the woman, the in-between woman. Kabachia, she cried to Rabbi Yochanan. Omerle, she told Rabbi Yochanan, Asebish vil bonai, do it for my children. Daven for him that he should live and stop being angry with him. If you're angry with my husband, Seder, not interfering. But for the Zise Kinderlach, for the children, at least for them, you should do something. Omerle, he told her apostle, Ozve Yisomecha Aniyachaya. Hashem says, you're forgotten Yisomim. I will give them life. Hashem will take care of Yisomim. Well, even if they become Yisomim, Hashem Yazor. He wasn't giving in so quickly. Asebishvil Almanusi. Hey, brother, I'm going to be an almano. Don't you care? I'm an almano. Do something so I should become an almano. Omer Lov Almanosai Chalai Tiftechu. Hashem says that the almanos can trust him. Hashem will help you. He thought Reish Lakish was really, really in a bad state. He had no rachmanis on his wife and children. Hashem will help them. Nach nafshed Reb Shimon ben Lakish. Reb Shimon Lakish eventually died. Now, what happened next? Rabbi Yochanan was very, very sorry about it. Was very much in pain. Basrei after him a lot. Why? Because he didn't find a good chavrusa. He realized after his death, after some time passed, he realized there is no other chavrusa as good as Rabbi Yochanan. oy chavrusa oy misusa. As Rish Lakish, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's no as good chavrusa as my beloved brother-in-law Zichrono Livrocha, Rish Lakish. And now he was very, very sad about the fact that Rish Lakish died. He realized his koyach HaTorah was more than all these kivyachol, the funny statement. Amar Abanon, man lazy late viladaite. Who's going to go to Rabbi Yochanan to be miyashevim, to help him and settle down, to settle his mind? Who's going to help him and be a good chavrusa? In other words, let's try and find a substitute for Rish Lakish, the new Rish Lakish. Who will be the new Rish Lakish to take over and satisfy Rabbi Yochanan's, intelligence appetite? Nezil Rabbi Lozo ben Pedas. Let Rabbi Lozo ben Pedas go. The Mechadidin Shmatze, his shmuos, his Torah was very sharp. He was a very sharp man. He can do the job instead of Rish Lakish. Ozal, he went. Yosef Kameh, he sat in front of him to learn. Hi, hello, I'm your new chavrusa. He sat in front of him. Kol milsa da'ava Rabbi Yochanan. Every statement made by Rabbi Yochanan, there was a dynamics between Rabbi Yochanan and the new chavrusa. Omer le tani de meseyalach. He was nice and he said, "Oh, here's a brisa that supports what you say." Right? In other words, you say that? Oh, here's big Talmud Chacham. You know all the brises. You, Rabbi Yochanan, say that? Oh, here I have a card out of my sleeve. Here's a brisa that endorses what you say. Omar, oh no, Rabbi Yochanan did not like that at all. Omar, Atke bar Lakisha? Are you trying to be the new Rish Lakish? Uh-oh, bar Lakisha, Rish Lakish, ki avamina milsa, when I said something to Rish Lakish, avamakshili esrin da'abakush yosa, he would have challenged me, asking me 24 questions, and I would have answered him 24 answers. Then the sugya became meruvach, became much more understandable and bigger, meruvach. In other words, we have enlarged our knowledge by disagreeing and fighting. Yeah, that brings real intelligence when we rub each other the wrong way, which is the right way. That brings the Torah to be much bigger. Yeah, you're bringing me, just help and proof and endorsing me from all kinds of brises. Don't I know that what I say is good? If I say something, I also think it's good. You're singing the same song as me, it doesn't help me. I need a contra. I need somebody to fight with. Yeah. Then he went. Rabbi Yochanan tore his clothes over Rabbi Yochanan, over Rish Lakish. Sorry. He tore his clothes over Rish Lakish, and he cried for Omar, and he said, Heichat bar Lakisha, Heichat bar Lakisha. He said, where are you, Rish Lakish? Where is Rish Lakish? He kept screaming, Ad Shaf daite minei, until he lost his mind. Is that a nice way to say it? Shaf, that his mind was removed from him. He lost his mind, literally. Rabbanan asked Rachmim, Rabbanan prayed for him, the rabbis prayed for him, and he died. End of story. Not end of Shiur. Yeah, so that was a tragic story. How did it all happen? From making, and we're talking with very, very holy people. You make the wrong statement, you make something, you never know. You say something, think it's witty, funny, cutesy, he won't mind about his past. You never know. You can kill a person literally by making a statement that you think is a nice wisecracker, something like that, and you can kill a person. So I'm saying that teaches us, and we're talking about who am I, but that's what we can learn from the Heilige Amoraim. Kol shekin we have to be so careful. Yes, I'm listening. Yeah. So we're done now in Pei Daled Amud Beis. We're back to the original story of Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon, what was his story? He would catch thieves, bring them to the police, to the Romans. The Romans would kill them. And although Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Shimon had the very strong siman, sign from heaven that he was doing fine, yet Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, still after all that, he wasn't 1,000,000% sure that maybe what he did was wrong. Yeah, although he did this interesting test, which we saw at the beginning of this year, that he's a real tzaddik, nevertheless, he felt maybe, chas v'shalom, maybe one of the people that he gave over to the police was really a tzaddik. So what did he do to take care of that? He accepted upon himself suffering. He wanted to suffer. As we're going to see soon, he actually verbally said to the Yisurim, to the suffering, to the misery, come over to me. He wanted to have Yisurim in Olam Hazeh in case Chalila he deserves them not to get it in Olam Haba. How would the Isurim take place? What was the process? The Orta, in the evening, Havu Maichi Lei, they would fold under him Shitin Namti, 60 layers of felt, of like sheets, 60 sheets underneath. Soon you'll see why. Letzafra, why? Well, first of all, he had a lot of wounds. He got like boils, a lot of wounds with blood all over the body. So he needed 60 sheets in order to absorb the blood. Letzafra, in the morning, nagdi mitute shitin meshichli dama v'kiva. In the morning, they would take from under his bed 60 buckets full, or maybe smaller buckets, bigger buckets, full of blood and kiva and pus. You know, so much blood and pus would come out. Unbelievable. All night he would have blood coming out. Lemochor, the morning after the Yisurim, of the late Visu, his wife would make for him to heal him, to cure shitin mine lafda, 60 types of some kind of salad, some kind of food made out of figs, like a fig kind of thing which is healthy. And then he would get better. In other words, by night he would be suffering. By day, after eating those figs, he would be relatively better, would be able to function. His wife did not allow him to go to shul, to koilel, to besmedrash to learn. Yeah, you want to learn home. His wife didn't let him go to besmedrash. So that the rabbanon, the other people, you know, in the mir, in Ponevezh, it's very crowded. The other Avrechim, the other Tanoim shouldn't, you know, rub shoulders with him physically, and that would hurt him. She wanted to keep him, you know, at home in his delicate situation. Da-da-da-dum. At the end, they got divorced. Oh, how? Let's see. Sunday. See you on Sunday. Atzlocha. Thank you to everybody here. Thank you for being such a great crowd. Thank you very much to everybody in Avos Shalom. Our new participants. Tavo Kol Yom. Yeah, you see the kind of shiur come every day. Yeah, and also to everybody in YouTube's channel and Torah Anytime. Thank you so much. Stay with us in our Amud Yomi shiur. A good Shabbos.